It's the most powerful earthquake in Nepal for decades. People describe wave after wave of tremors. The army is sifting through the rubble, brick by brick, looking for signs of life, as well as bodies. The number of people killed is rapidly increasing. Hospital beds have been set up on the streets, and in the wards, treatment is basic. Nepal is asking India to send mobile medical teams. The worst damage is in Old Kathmandu. It's full of narrow, winding lanes. Many are blocked with rubble, making it difficult for rescuers to get in. A 19th century tower has been knocked down. Only a stump remains. Tourists were climbing the tower when the earthquake struck.
There have been multiple aftershocks, some quite big, and people are afraid to go back to their homes. As darkness sets, as you can see, most people have come to these public spaces and built a shelter. It looks like a storm is also coming, and people are bracing themselves for a cold and wet night.
Around 2.5 million people live in Kathmandu Valley. There are reports whole villages have been destroyed. Nepal is facing a major disaster.
Strong aftershocks continue to hit Nepal, with one measuring 6.7 on the Richter scale, causing further panic and devastation. The number of dead continues to rise by the minute after Saturday's 7.9 magnitude quake, amid frantic searches for survivors among the rubble. The latest official death toll is now more than 2,000. But many remote areas close to the epicenter have still not been reached. Hospitals and clinics are overwhelmed with the scores of people arriving with serious injuries. The quake caused many buildings and landmarks to collapse, and local authorities are struggling to cope with the aftermath. Many residents have been forced to take cover in makeshift outdoor shelters.
Beloved listeners, I want you to know that the Lord, the God of Israel, He has spoken with me today. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And in this conversation this night, I see a country, and that country, I see a mountain on that country. And that mountain is exalted. I see a tremendous earthquake hit that land. A huge historic earthquake hits that land. Again, I see a country, I see a land, and in that land I see a huge mountain, and then a tremendous historic earthquake strikes that land and strikes that mountain. And I see some of the rocks come and hurt people down here where people are living, the habitation. The Lord, from where I am standing, I see Him taking me right now into the tall buildings of that country, and I see there's tremendous risk, tremendous danger, because I see the building. I am almost falling from top. I'm about to fall from a very high storied building as the earthquake shakes and breaks open the building. I'm about to fall down, all the way down. I have lived and seen that future day that is coming. I see a tremendous earthquake that is coming to a land that has a mountain. It is so big, and there are lots of big caterpillars, the caterpillar tractors, and I see the tractor, the caterpillar with rocks that they were carrying. I have seen an earthquake coming. It's bringing massive power to clean up the ungodliness of men, to clean up the deception of men, the disobedience of men, the immorality of men.
searching for survivors with bare hands, the immediate aftermath of an earthquake that's brought death and destruction to a large swathe of Nepal. Old brick buildings simply crumbled, with many people trapped under rubble. Many are still trapped, and Nepal has appealed for international help. This man was buried alive in debris, so was he. Both were rescued, but across the country the death toll has been rising fast. Nepal is struggling to cope with all its injured. There were so many casualties, the capital's hospitals quickly ran out of space. Many felt safer out of doors anyway, after the terror they'd just been through. Amateur video captured the moment when the earthquake struck, just before noon. You can hear the panic in their voices.
The ground shook quite hard for, I would say, possibly about 30 seconds.
The 19th century Darara Tower, 9 stories high, was a big tourist attraction, part of a World Heritage Site. Look at what's left of it now. Rescuers dig for bodies. Some have been brought out, but it's not clear how many people were inside when the tower collapsed. You can see the force of the earthquake from the damage it's done to the country's infrastructure. The real fear now is for inaccessible parts of this poor and mountainous country. There are reports that villages near the epicentre have been flattened.
A delicate operation. This man has been trapped for hours in one of Kathmandu's collapsed buildings. The rescue workers gingerly manoeuvre him out of a window, past power lines and down to safety. But there's already a big problem, not enough emergency vehicles to cope with the hundreds of injured people. Some are being taken to hospital in trucks and rickshaws, but even then the hospitals are so inundated they're running out of space. And then there's the fear of aftershocks. That's why so many of these people spent the night sleeping in the streets of Kathmandu, worried that more buildings might disintegrate.
Many of these aftershocks have been, earthquakes by themselves. Some 6.6, many of them above 5 magnitude. So people are very scared.
There was little chance of sleep, but for most, spending the night outside in freezing conditions seemed like the safer option. Even those whose homes are still standing are afraid of what could come next.
We're hearing rumours that other big earthquakes are expected to happen. We're sleeping here so we can stay safe and quickly run to safety if needed.
What if an earthquake comes again and we don't have the chance to run? We'll be buried alive. Me and my family haven't gone back to the room since the earthquake happened this afternoon. We are too scared.
Responding to the humanitarian crisis, disaster teams from around the world are now on their way. America is one of a number of countries that's deployed aid. The UK, countries from the European Union and China have also sent help. These are now critical hours when it comes to finding signs of life. Much of Nepal's cultural heritage is now in ruins. The centuries-old temples and towers of the Kathmandu Valley, a World Heritage Site, have been reduced to rubble. While there's no escaping the destruction in built-up areas, in Nepal's more remote parts the picture is far less clear. The extent of damage in villages at the earthquake's epicentre is still unknown. Landing in New Delhi, 2 Indian Air Force planes were called to help the search in northern India, where the quake's tremors left a number of people dead. A reminder that this earthquake's impact reaches far beyond Nepal's borders. Damage to the country's infrastructure is likely to create further difficulties in reaching the affected areas.
The quake was felt as far away as New Delhi and other cities in northern India, as well as in Bangladesh. There are reports of damage in some locations and numerous deaths in India reported. This man says, "I felt strong tremors. It happened at about 11:45 in the morning local time. The building started to sway and we quickly came down from the 7th floor." There have been numerous aftershocks following the big quake, making the search for survivors amongst the rubble dangerous.
I see a tremendous earthquake that is coming to a land that has a mountain. It is so big, and there are lots of big caterpillars, the caterpillar tractors. And I see the tractor, the caterpillar with rocks that they were carrying.
As the search for survivors continues, rescuers know they're running out of time. With every hour that passes, the death toll continues to increase.
I see a country, I see a land, and in that land I see a huge mountain, and then a tremendous historic earthquake strikes that land and strikes that mountain. And I see some of the rocks come and hurt people down here where people are living, the habitation.
Ravi, the earthquake struck at about midday local time. You referenced Mount Everest. I have a report from a man who was there at the time of the earthquake. Roll that tape.
Hello guys, this is Arjun from Advanced Base Camp of Makalu. We've had a lot of disturbance here due to the earthquake which was reported in Nepal. All along that base, now it's covered into clouds. We had quite a few big avalanches coming down of those phases. From here we had quite a bit of rockfall.
In the Himalayas, the earthquake set off avalanches, and at least 10 mountaineers are believed to have died on Mount Everest, with others, including some British climbers, unaccounted for.
We had quite a few big avalanches coming down of those phases. From here we had quite a bit of rockfall.
In another rescue operation, the first helicopter arrived at Mount Everest Base Camp, where 17 climbers were killed when the quake triggered an avalanche. Thankfully, these Sherpas escaped the worst, but it's been a nervous time for their families. As rescuers race to find survivors, a major international aid effort is being prepared. The UK, the US and Pakistan are sending teams to help. As the death toll rises, it's clear that more is going to be needed.
The Messiah is coming. I have seen the coming of the Messiah. Those who have ears, please listen to the words of the Lord and prepare in repentance and absolute righteousness and holiness.